Hello, 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 hello. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining. Welcome to Conversations with BibbyJ. What another beautiful Saturday. Yep. How are we doing? Hello, everyone. Prof, I can see you there. I'm just trying to pin the topic for tonight. I would get you in now very shortly. So, yeah, good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening. Thank you for joining. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's so good to have you all here with us tonight. Thank you all. Thank you so much for joining. And my guests, thank you, Favor Prevail, thank you. Hey, Olumide, thank you so much for joining. Amara, so good to have you. Happy Biodun, so good to have you on my Elite Vendors Network. Thank you for joining. So I have got my guest. Oh, this guest don't joke. He doesn't joke at all. He doesn't even give you 1 minute to settle in before he joins. He's always on time. Hey, Prof.
Hi, Bibi. How are you? Good evening.
I am good, thank you. I'm very well, thank you. How are you? It's so good to have you again. Thank you, everyone. Good evening. So, Prof, we are going to have about a couple of minutes welcoming people. I was just saying that you're always on time. Like, you come in like that. Like, you don't even wait 1 minute before you join. So, thank you all very much. Thank you for joining. Good evening. Welcome to Conversations with BibbyJ again tonight. It is actually the first conversation of the year. Happy New Year to every single person on
Happy New
here.
Year, indeed.
It's myself and Prof attend the same church, so it's our 2021 Aya year. So we say Happy Aya year to ourselves. So that's what we say. But guys, honestly, it's so good to have you tonight. It's good to be able to do this again. You know, Okoyemi is on the call with us tonight, all the way from the US. You know, he was
Hi,
here.
Lumide.
You know, he was here the last time. He has been so amazing. Even on Facebook, it's like he's tagging us on some of these conversations going on. God bless you. Thank you so much, Bimbo. I can see you. Welcome, everyone. How are we all doing? I mean, guys, just let us know how you're doing. So, Prof, welcome to you. Welcome and welcome and welcome. Thank you so much. Welcome to every single person on the call tonight. I mean, we are going to be on the journey tonight is going to be very interesting. I can tell you that, guys, because you know what? This is something that has happened to all of us. Let's put it that way. This topic of vaccine or no vaccine and everything, we can all relate to it right now. So what that means is that we have to take our time. So I'm going to say, guys, I'm hoping that this is not going to go on for too long, but for as long as it lasts, I want you to please stay with us, because I'm sure there are people, most of you on here are not even like in the queue to take the vaccine yet, but it is coming. So that's first thing I want us to accept, that it is coming to all of us. Now, how best or how nice would it be if we're all well prepared for when it gets to our turn? Because then you would have to make a decision whether you want to take it or not. And this is why we're having this conversation. So for the benefit of those who are joining us for the very first time tonight, I have got Dr. Zubi with me, Dr. Zubi Okemefuna with me. He was here with us last year. I think it was in December, right? Where we discussed this conversation. We had this topic, and it was the same topic we discussed, and it told us quite a lot. I mean, people who were here last year and they're here tonight will testify to it that he actually did the topic a good justice, because some of the questions that we had, the way he explains them, the way he answered them, they were just so, I mean, I finished that conversation that night, and I said to my husband straight away that when it gets to our turn to get this vaccine, I'm not going to look back. It just makes sense. So now I think it's time for us to just take this again, and let's see. So guys, as I said, if you have questions, please do send them in. Let's discuss them. Let's Prof help us here to address the question. So Prof, as I always say, because I am one person, I mean, I can introduce you and say, yes, this is Prof, his name is this, he's the father, he's the husband, he's a scientist, he's a doctor. But you know what? You know those words that you need, that you know that you want to be introduced as. And in terms of, for people who don't actually know you personally, because I know you and I know you are overqualified in this field to have this conversation with me. This is why I haven't just brought just any doctor, you know. I have brought someone that I know is a specialist in this field. So so you have to explain to us. Actually, I think that's one of the things you should explain to us, the difference between, because everyone calls, like everyone in the medical field, or doctor, but like people who are working on the vaccine, and I think I learned this from you actually, that you're all different, you do different things. So maybe it's one of those things that you're going to talk to us about tonight, because if someone says they're a doctor and you're asking something about vaccine, and the doctor says one thing, whether they are doctor for vaccine or not, you don't really know. So Prof, good evening once again. Please let you introduce yourself to our guest tonight. You know, just say a few words before I go into, because I want to go straight into the questions. I've got a lot of questions here that I want us to go through, and I'm sure people on the call as well would have some questions to ask as well. So please take it away.
Thank you, Bibi. So yes, I have a PhD in structural and molecular biology from University College London. Over the past, say, 10, 15 years, I have been in the life sciences sector. What are the life sciences? That's the sector where you've got, you know, everything to do with biology, chemistry, all of that stuff in terms of the developmental aspect of it. So this is quite distinct from, say, the medical field, where that is further down the chain. And in that time, I have been personally involved in, first of all, the research part of it, so being at the bench and designing, if you like, say, therapeutics and things like that. I've been involved in actually even the much earlier part of it, the theoretical aspect of it. So I've developed structures, protein structures, so that's stored in the protein data bank. So you just need to Google it, you see all those things. I've had a number of published papers, quite a few of them. Again, you can Google that. Some of them are award-winning as well. In that space, certainly, I would say I'm not a newcomer in that space. Yeah. And then away from the actual kind of theoretical and being on the bench, I've also worked very much extensively with pharmaceutical companies, both as somebody within the organization, again, in research and development, helping to develop drugs, many of which are being used to treat people right now, and also as an advisor to these companies. So for companies that are looking to bring new treatments to the market, including vaccine manufacturers and companies that operate in the vaccine space. So I'd say across the entire breadth, so from the actual conceptualization to the delivery of it, I've been involved in that. And oh yes, I've also been involved in going to speak to regulators, so in the approval process, so kind of setting up the approval dossier, going to speak to regulators, having these conversations with the scientific panel, the panel that approves regulators. I've been involved in discussions with them. So I think that really, when it comes to this sort of thing, I'm in a pretty good position to be able to talk about it.
Oh wow! So, see, Prof, please tell me, how on earth was I supposed to say all of those things that you just said in terms of introducing you or telling people what you do? So you see, guys, you can see that we haven't just got a scientist with us. We've got someone with years of experience in this field. And I believe that every word that comes out of his mouth, you can take to the bank, especially on this vaccine, because if not, he wouldn't even agree to come on social media, right, to share any of his knowledge with us. So thank you very much for that. Thank you so much, Prof. So just going straight into the questions. Thank you all for who are just joining as well. You know, I remember like the last, we've discussed this before, we had the part 1 last year, and we started off by you explaining what vaccines are, right, to us. And I know that there are people on this call tonight who were in part of that conversation last year, and I'm not sure if they've watched the replay of the conversation. So in a very brief, just very briefly, can you tell us, just to get us started tonight, because I want us to lay the foundation right for people who are not been part of any conversation whatsoever regarding this vaccine. What are vaccines, and what do they do, basically?
So vaccines, Karate Kid, you know, Mr. Miyagi, that's what vaccines are. So I know a lot of people don't know what I'm talking about, but think of some of these martial arts movies, they always, at least the kind of classic ones, they usually go the same arc, right? The plot usually takes the same arc, where the protagonist gets bullied. So the first time he comes across the bully, he gets beaten very badly because he's not prepared. Then he goes back and he meets this person who is, you know, the benefactor and the coach says, I will teach you what to do.
That's right, yes.
And then the coach takes time and trains the person. And then that means the next time that person meets the bully, the battle ends very quickly because the person is prepared. That's exactly what vaccines do. So the vaccines are the coach that prepare you so that when next you meet that bully, you're able to beat the bully. Now, the slight difference in this story is that in the case of vaccines, you learn from other people's experience. So imagine that you are now the friend of that Karate Kid who was beaten up, and you say, well, I'm not going to wait till I get beaten up. I'm going to find Mr. Miyagi. So Mr. Miyagi prepares you. So when that bully gets to your turn, you, no, I'm not having it, and you put it up straight away. So that's what it does. Vaccines prepare your immune system to be able to fight infectious diseases.
Wow. Okay. So you see that analogy you gave there, I'm sure for anyone who's into movies, they get it straight away. You can see even Philip had to send in a laughing emoji because yes, he got it right there and there. So vaccines prepare you for when the virus comes or something like that. So it doesn't prevent you from getting the virus.
It doesn't prevent the virus from coming. It
just prepares you for when it comes. Your body is at a state where it can respond in the most appropriate way, if we can put it that way. Thank you very much. So now going to my very proper question for tonight. So I did say that so follow on from our last conversation, a few people reached out to me, sent me some questions that they wanted to, they asked me directly, and I was like, I don't know. I'm going to have to ask the scientist. I'm not a scientist, right? But I said, well, when we're having the part 2, we will discuss it, right? And then also, I have been able to speak to a couple of people who have taken the vaccine. So we will get to that as well, because I would like to share their stories with us tonight. So the first thing is that someone said, is it better? Because what they've told us is you get this vaccine to get immunity from the vaccine, basically. But now someone then asked, so can I get a natural immunity? So if there is the option of getting the natural one, why do I need to get the vaccine? So please, can you tell us the difference between the two? Because if you're, I don't even know if there was any natural immunity that one can get. So I don't know. Yeah. So can you please let us know what is that, and is it possible for us to do that?
Yeah, that's a good question actually, and the short answer to the question is it's possible. Yes. So going back to my analogy, it's a bit like learning how to defend yourself by getting beaten up by the bully many times. Okay, so the bully beats you and beats you. Each time the bully beats you, you kind of learn how to counter this move, and then you get to a point where you're able to defend yourself because you got beaten up. Whereas what the vaccine does, like I said, you're the friend of the person being bullied, so you learn from their experience. You don't wait to get beaten up. So natural immunity, in essence, the most reliable one anyway, would be got when you've had the disease. So if you've had COVID, then you will develop some immunity against it, at least some. Okay, right now we don't know how much. Okay, but in principle, when you've had it, your body reacts the same way. Your body generates antibodies, and so when next the virus comes, your body is prepared for it. What the vaccine does is that it mimics being beaten up. So if you imagine that story, how did Mr. Miyagi teach the Karate Kid? Sometimes by beating him up, but in a controlled environment, right? So you expose the body to the same stresses of the virus, but in a controlled environment, so they actually never get beaten up, they actually never get hurt, they never get injured, so that then you develop immunity in that way.
Okay.
And when you use the term natural, it depends on what you mean, right? Because in a sense, what you might call acquired immunity, okay, or yeah, so that's a technical term that the person has used in that sense, but I'm sure that's not what the person means, because strictly speaking, the immunity we're talking of, whether you're getting it from being administered a vaccine, or you're getting it from having COVID, it's still natural because it's your body that is generating the immunity.
The immunity,
yeah. What you might consider as being less natural and perhaps acquired or kind of infused, if you like, if I may use that term, is that it's actually possible to take antibodies directly from either a person who's had the disease, so you harvest antibodies from the person, or you design the antibodies and manufacture them and then give people directly. So that immunity is not as a result of a person's body responding to the virus. It's something acquired, so it's something that you put into the person. And sometimes that needs to be done because, at that point, the person doesn't have the time to wait for their own body to start to develop immunity. So you recruit, so it's like getting the Karate Kid's friends. Right? So your friends come and help you. But you know that when those friends go home and the bully comes again, you're still on your own, right? So it's always going to be short.
Basically, yeah.
Ultimately, you have to develop your own capability.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, if I heard you very clearly there, it's so when you're saying the natural immunity, it's basically saying you want to wait to catch the virus first, recover from it, and then your body can then build that immunity. So, well, and I think that really makes sense in a way. So if you feel like, oh, as opposed to taking the vaccine, I'd rather get the virus and deal with it and pray that you don't go from that, like you don't pass on from that. So, but if not, you might want to consider the vaccine. So thank you very much for that. So
actually, maybe if I may pick up on what you said there, I think that's an important way you put it, because I guess the question you ask yourself is, would you rather get beaten up by a bully that is merciless and could potentially kill you, or would you rather be trained? The training is not going to be easy. It's going to expose you to the same sort of things, but in a controlled environment, you're never going to get hurt. You're not going to die being trained. And that's the question you have to ask yourself. And sometimes you think of it, I mean, it seems like an obvious choice, doesn't it? But
yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for that. So I did say earlier that I'd spoken to a couple of people who have taken the vaccine before, and it's very interesting that they both had different side effects, if you like. So and one person said that, oh, after she took it, she started to feel a bit tired. I mean, she wasn't tired before taking it. She started to feel a bit tired. And then the other person said, oh, the place where they gave her the vaccine was very sore for a few days. And I was like, oh, but that's kind of normal. Like when you take these injections, like that place will be normal, will be sore for some time. So now what I want us to do, I mean, one person said, please, Bibi, can you find out what are the common side effects of this vaccine? Because that is something that no one has been able to answer so far. Apart from you might have slight headache, you might have, I mean, we've seen on TV where someone took it, I believe it was in America, a nurse took it and fainted on camera. I mean, initially I was thinking, maybe that wasn't true. Maybe that was a staged kind of a thing, but I'm sure it wasn't staged. So what are the common side effects in this of this vaccine? So I want us to address those first, and then I'll go on to my next question.
Okay. So for everyone, really, I guess this is a tip.
So, Prof.
So, can you hear me? Yeah?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Yes,
so this is a tip for everyone. So for every medicinal product that you buy, certainly that has gone through the approvals process as is defined in much of the Western world, you would have a leaflet in there, right? And within the leaflet, when you open it, it will actually show you the most common adverse events there. So that's
Yeah.
it's information that is kind of readily available, and you can actually check that out for yourself. I know the majority of us, you take ibuprofen or Panadol, you don't look at that. You just go pop, pop in your mouth. Yeah. But
Yeah,
actually,
that's
all of
correct.
these are associated with side effects. That's one of the things that you must do as somebody who's developing a new drug, a new treatment. You must characterize the adverse events profile. You must capture that information around that. And throughout the life cycle of that drug, as long as it remains in the market, you must continually collect information around that, so that over a period of time, not only are we able to get a retrospective view as to what has happened throughout the time the product has been in the market, we're also able to answer questions like you've asked. What are the common ones that anybody who's going to take the drug could expect to possibly encounter? And I think in the case of a vaccine, many of the side effects for vaccines really are common, right? Many of the common side effects of vaccines are kind of across vaccines. You know, when you inject somebody, because these are intramuscular vaccines we're talking of, so you just goes into muscle tissue, you're going to have some soreness. Okay, that's just common, right? You're going to have some soreness around that. You could also have some, infusion reactions. Sometimes you may have rashes around that place, just because something is being injected there. And bear in mind that actually, for many of these side effects, during the clinical trial, they would usually be randomized. So you'd have people who are taking the treatment and people who are just taking placebo. Placebo is just often water and salt. And often you would see some of these side effects in both places, right? Which tell you that they are not necessarily entirely linked to the drug itself, just from the mode of administration. So nothing really to worry about. So the muscle soreness, you often get that. Sometimes the rash is there. Some of the other ones. So again, this is in the material you get with the medication. So you might, in some cases, there may be diarrhea. Okay. In some cases, there might be fever. Okay. In some cases, the person might have chills. Right. So, and then in some cases, yes, you could have additional allergic reactions. Right. So like the nurse you talked about, that I don't know exactly what happened in her own case, but people sometimes react differently. So remember, we're talking of common ones. So the most common ones are these ones I mentioned. Some people may have sometimes reported that may feel a little bit, and I don't know whether lightheaded is the word, but clouded in their minds.
They actually like told me that.
Yes. So I think that there's a long list. I don't really think it's beneficial to go through that long list. But what I want to make everyone that's listening to this understand is that for every medicinal product you have, you will have that long list. You just go right now, pick up any drug, anything you take, as long as it's gone through an approval stage. Not a food supplement, okay? So not vitamins, which are classified as food supplements, but something that treats a condition. You will see a list of conditions. There's a question there.
Yes, so this just came in. So because I wouldn't want us to be like going up and down before I miss any questions. So let's take this. So Bola says that she's scared of taking this vaccine because she has a 9-month-old and 6 years old, and she wants to travel to the US and was told they will have to be vaccinated. How safe is this with children, please? So I think first thing, maybe I can behave like the experts here, right? Please, are they asking the children to also take the vaccine? Because that's something to know, because I've never heard of it. So Paula, please, can you confirm, have they asked the children to take the vaccine as well? Or is it just for you as an adult, right? So Prof, do you want to answer that while we wait for her to respond, please? Because it would be nice to know if the children are being vaccinated as well.
Yes, I think that's it. In fact, that's the question to ask, right? Because right now, there is nothing anywhere actually requiring children to be vaccinated. In fact, that would not even, that's not a thing. So just confirm, because I suspect that the vaccination is for you and for the parents of the children, not the children themselves. So for many vaccines, or unless they are developed directly for children, in fact, let's not even say vaccines, for many medicinal products, you would find a lot of them saying you have to be at least 12 years old, you have to be at least X, Y, Z years old before you can take it.
Before you can take it,
So I would find it really, really surprising.
Okay, she's not sure. Yeah, she just said that she's not really sure. So it's but I mean it's for
it's for you,
not the children. I mean I've read that Spain is about issuing out vaccine passports. So if you don't have the passport, you can't go anywhere. So, and there's a way that all of these things confirms some things that we've heard, you know, especially we Christians. I mean, if you're a Christian on this conversation tonight, you probably would know what I'm trying to get to. But I think this is the point I can actually say that because we are aware, we're not going to try to ignore what is happening in our community, right? So let's address this. There are some conspiracy theories out there that people are saying in the Bible, it says the mark of 666, you get it, you can't travel without having it, you can't buy, you can't sell. And everything that is happening right now actually looks like that, you know. So which is why some Christians are probably saying never, I'm not taking it, and all of that. So because of that, we've actually been in discussion with a pastor, Pastor Temi, who's going to be looking at this from a spiritual view, because, you know, I mean, I'm not spiritual. Prof is a minister, so he's himself and Pastor Temi, right?
I'm spiritual. I don't know about you.
Yeah, so you'll be talking about this vaccine, like what it means, and you know, all these conspiracy theories. So now, as Bola said, she said she is scared to take this vaccine, and this is the whole essence of us having this conversation, right? And people are absolutely right to be scared, you know. And I'm sure one of the reasons why people will be scared is the fact that, oh, you've brought out a vaccine within like 6 months or something like that, when it usually takes years. And I believe you addressed this on our last conversation, that normally it would take about 6 to 10 years to develop something. But right now, I mean, this pandemic put every economy, every country of the earth on what? On hold. So they had to pour all their resources into it. So it's not even a matter of yeah, we'll wait for when we have enough money to get the vaccine. Imagine if there's no vaccine. So right now, and this is what I want us to focus on, this is coming. So now we are going to get to the point that every single one of us on this conversation tonight will have to take the vaccine. But what you don't want to do is get to that point and you're still so scared or not sure whether you should take it or not, which is why it is important to speak to people. And I can say, I mean, I usually say that on the conversation, I mean, I don't have an opinion. I just say what the guest is saying. I just ask the question. But this is a man that I have known for almost 20 years. And this is his field. This is why I didn't bring just any doctor to talk about this. I've brought someone who is highly qualified to address this. So I said to him, I don't know why he's not advising the Prime Minister, because sometimes the way he explains this thing is just so. Anyway, I can go on and on that. So yeah, so Bola, I guess, Prof, what do you have to say to Bola, who is scared about this vaccine because she wants to travel, and they've said to her that she can't go to the US unless she gets vaccinated. So what would you say to her, please?
Well, so I guess Bola's question, right? When I looked at it, she said she started off saying she's scared, and then she talked about the safety of the children. So hopefully we've talked about that second part. There isn't anything right now requiring the children to be vaccinated. So as far as you're concerned, so a few years ago, I traveled to a Western African country. And before I traveled, I was looking at the immigration requirements, and I was required to get a yellow fever vaccination before I could go. It was a requirement. Honestly, I didn't think twice about it. I just went, got my yellow fever vaccine. I was able to go to the country. It wasn't a thing, okay? I think the reason why this is sounding like it's a thing, it's because of all the noise and all the talk that is going on around it, because really it's not a thing, okay? We've been taking vaccines since, I mean, I don't know, how old you are, but I imagine that in your lifetime, you've taken vaccines, right? Lots of them, both as a child and potentially as an adult. And it's not really been
I know she has taken the yellow fever one. She has taken
there you go. Yeah. So why then is this a thing, right? What is different about this vaccine that is different from the other ones? And then we'll talk about some of those things. But what I'd say to you is, if you look at it, I don't think there's really any reason to be scared, right? Because what exactly what is there to be scared about? What you should be scared of is if people do not care. Governments do not care. People who are supposed to, some of whom we have elected, some of whom have taken, been called, and some of whom have taken it upon themselves to care for other people. And they're not taking it seriously enough they are preventing people from doing what they need to do in order to protect themselves and others. That's who you should be scared of. You should be scared of people who tell you it's better to wait and catch COVID, or wait until someone that's close to you catches it and passes away, and then, you know, you could be immune. I mean, people like that are people that you should really be scared of, because what exactly are they getting at, and what is the purpose of that? So I would say to you, there's nothing to be worried about. There are a lot of things in place to make sure that no risk, unnecessary risk, is taken as far as you are concerned, as far as your children is concerned. Enjoy your trip. Okay,
so thank you very much for that, Prof. So Adrenaline Mo says that apologies if this has been answered. Actually, no apologies needed at all. We haven't answered it. She said, but as our guest taking the vaccine, as you can see, he's a very young man, so he wouldn't have taken it.
well, Prof, if you think I'm over 65, I feel very, I don't know whether to feel flattered or insulted, but...
Well, yeah, so...
yeah. But yeah, no, I haven't taken it. I'm not a frontline health worker. Okay, I'm not in I'm not in the vulnerable population, and I'm not, as you can imagine, I'm not above 65 to take it. So no, I haven't.
Yeah, but as soon as it gets to your turn, you're definitely taking it.
When the opportunity arises, why not?
Exactly. Thank you very much. Okay, so Yemisi says this is not the first time in history of the world where the entire population was required to take a vaccine. All the vaccines we now clamor to have our babies have started like this. It's normal. Yes, exactly. So I guess it's just understanding that these things, it is normal. Yeah. Piodun says, does this vaccine actually give you immunity? I think you addressed that earlier, but please, can you answer that? Does it give immunity?
I would very much hope so. Otherwise, what would be the point of taking it?
Right.
Yeah. Right. So it's a good question, right? And it's an assumption that everybody makes. But the question you're asking, actually, that's the question that the regulators ask. That's the question that the manufacturers and developers of the vaccine ask themselves. That's why all of that research goes into it. Tens of thousands of people are tested with it, and before it even gets to people, we tested in different models to answer that question you're asking, because if the answer to the question is no, it would never see the light of day. So it's a good question, and the answer is, so when you hear things like 95% efficacy, 70% efficacy, that's the answer. That's what it's saying. That it's saying that in 9 out of 10 people who take this, they actually, so the primary endpoint in these cases is the development of two of them, development of COVID, all right, getting infected with COVID 7 days after the vaccine course is completed, or the secondary one being development of severe COVID. And in 9 out of 10 cases, people don't catch it, right? Okay. So that's the whole point. It gives you immunity.
Okay, thank you for that. So I'll just...
Oh, sorry, and actually, so to say that I said in 9 out of 10 cases, people don't catch it. And in 10 out of 10 cases, nobody who actually got it went on to have severe COVID.
Okay, so basically they catch it, but they don't have the severe COVID.
The minority that do catch it, yes, that are on the vaccine, so far, none of them has ended up having severe COVID.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's very good to know. Very, very good to know. So Elite Vendors Network says, this one is a thing because it's so new. And I believe that's in response to what YMC said earlier, that this is being normal. And
can I ask a question there? Actually, sorry, before we move on, there's a... Yeah. And I understand the whole thing about it being new. So, do you remember a few years ago, I think it was 2016 or before then, when Ebola happened?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yes.
No, was it 2016?
When it started, and then...
2013 or 2013, because I remember...
There were a number of iterations of that, okay. Yes. There was one in where was that? Well, in West Africa, and then there was the other one in the Congo.
Oh, yeah, yes, that's right.
Yeah, that happened later. So, and one of the things that people were saying then was, this has been allowed to go on for this long because of the group of people it affects. That if it affected another group of people, I bet you we would have had a vaccine very quickly. And now we have that situation that the vaccine has come out, and that is the opposite argument.
It's actually very interesting you said that, because I remember very well when Ebola came out, I probably was one of those people also that said if this had happened in the Western world, they would have found something to do to deal with it and all of that. And that's now what we are experiencing. And then even though this is happening, we're still struggling to accept it, you know, and it just tells you the human nature. Like, our nature is so beautiful, you know, like we are all over the place most times, but it is all well and
It's
good.
human, right? I think you said something earlier, and you know, the point of this conversation is obviously we're acknowledging that these questions are reasonable questions. Okay, so it's good that these questions are being asked, because that's what makes us human. We are rational. We ask questions about things that we don't understand, and thank you for asking these questions, and thank God we are having an opportunity to address them. So this is not to say your questions are not valid. This is just to say that there isn't really anything new. All right, it may sound like this is new, but it's not. The same questions, for example, and the same pushbacks that we're having now, the same things happened when there was smallpox. The same thing happened when the Spanish flu was a thing, you know, 100 or so years ago, right? People pushed back. When people were asked to stay in lockdown, there were people who said this is not a thing. So everything you're seeing now, that's human nature. We question things, and you know that on the one hand, that's what allowed us to get where we are in the advancements in scientific breakthroughs, because we ask questions. On the other hand, of course, you know, sometimes it means that we just have to make sure that we get the information right, so that we don't information.
That's absolutely right, Prof. You know, Ayo says that she thinks the difference in history is in history and passage of time. That's absolutely correct as well. Yemsi says social media has helped with the spread of conspiracy theories and disinformation. People just should let common sense prevail, you know. And that's the thing. This is why I mean, Prof, we're discussing this social media thing on our other show. So by the way, guys, for those that do not know, myself and Prof are co-presenters of the Sunrise Show that airs on Sunday morning at 9 o'clock on the House of Rock London Lighthouse, all platforms, basically. Yeah, so anyway, so we're discussing this about social media and how people use the social media, you know, and it's one of those things that we're going to be looking at tomorrow as well. Ayo says that the yellow fever, I think I have kind of lost Ayo's message there. She said the yellow fever, there's one she said, yes, I found it. The yellow fever vaccine has been around a while and has become normal as opposed to this new vaccine. And that is the truth. You know, we acknowledge this. It is the truth. But here you are, Prof, saying to us tonight that as much as that is true, there is absolutely nothing new about this COVID vaccine. So Elite Vendors Network says it hasn't been tried and tested. There have been faults with vaccines in the past, and there hasn't been a large group of test patients and not enough time to see results before rolling it out. Prof, I want you to address that, because I remember you said you kind of addressed this on the part one of this conversation last year, you know, because this is part of why people are a little bit reluctant in accepting these vaccines. Like, okay, yes, I'll go and take it, you know, because people are saying you develop this within like what, 3, 4, 5 months. How many people have been tested to be sure that this actually would give us the expected results? Do we know if there will be any? And this actually takes me to my own next question, where I would like you to address that with it. Do we know if there are any long-term side effects from this? I mean, we've been taking other vaccines, vaccination for years, and there's not been any mention of the long-term effects. What about this vaccine? So please, can you address that for us, please?
Yeah, so I will address this comment here first, and then we can come to the long-term effect part of it. I think they might be connected, but they are slightly different things.
Yeah.
So this is primarily looking to the past, right? Because your question about long-term effect is looking forward. This is looking back. This says it's made so this person has made an assertion and said it hasn't been tried and tested. So I'm going to pause there right away, and I'm going to challenge that. I'm going to ask, when you say it hasn't been tried and tested, can you explain what you mean? Because I'm not sure what you mean by it hasn't been tried and tested. But I will tell you my perspective on that comment, and maybe you can provide a bit more information on what you mean by it hasn't been tried and tested. So across the 3 vaccines that have been approved, so the AstraZeneca one, okay, Oxford AstraZeneca one, Moderna, and Pfizer. Across the 3 of them, just for the phase 3 trials alone, you've had something close to 100,000 people, okay, 80 to 100,000 people that have actually taken the full dose, okay, the full course.
Yeah.
Now, that's not including the earlier trials, which are in the hundreds, so probably won't shift that number that much.
Yeah.
So again, I don't know what you mean by it hasn't been tried and tested, but 100,000 people seems like a big number to me. Okay, so maybe you can put a little bit more context to that. And then you says that, yeah, he says there hasn't been a large group of test patients. So yeah, I don't know what that means. Okay, because I will challenge you to find a bigger number than that. Okay, for any sort of trial. So just check these numbers and get back because I'm a bit concerned that some of these assertions may.
So you're saying that there wouldn't be any bigger number than 100,000 people tested, or for any trials whatsoever? Is that what
I'm saying is that in fact vaccine trials are typically among the largest size trials for the reason that they are vaccine. Okay. Many other diseases and many other medicinal products actually have far fewer numbers than that. Okay, and that's fine because it depends on the size of the population. Vaccines are usually for healthy people. So what I'm saying is that when this person says there hasn't been a large group of test patients, that's an assertion. Okay, it's not a question; it's a statement. And I'm challenging that statement. I'm saying, well, from where I'm sitting, that doesn't seem to be true. Okay, and that's why I'm using these numbers. I'm saying again, if you have something different, if for example you don't consider that number large enough, then maybe we can discuss that.
Maybe we can.
And then, so there are a couple of other points. So this person says they have been forced with vaccines in the past. Now, without you being more specific, again, I'm not sure what you're referring to and what you mean by force. I don't know whether you mean manufacturing force. I don't know whether you mean side effects. I don't know what you mean. So these are just general statements that you kind of thrown out there. We need to understand a little bit more. So I can't really talk to that. But the ones that I can see that I can address, I can certainly tell you that those statements at the very least need to be qualified. Because as we stand, they may not be true. And then the last one there, which actually I think that again, that's not that is a statement, and I can say that I can see some truth there, right? So the person says there's not been enough time to see results before rolling it out. Now it depends on how you look at it. This statement says there's not been enough time to see the results. Well, that's not true, because if there was not enough time to see results, it would never be approved. Remember that question that was asked earlier, does it actually confer immunity? If you can't answer that question, you will not get approval. Okay. So this statement, what it's saying, again, unfortunately, I'm sorry, but it's not right. However, if what you were saying that is that you might like to see a little bit more time in order to perhaps answer the next question you're asking to see longer term effects, then maybe that's something we can discuss. Okay. So to summarize, when you say it hasn't been tried and tested, I challenge that. I'm not sure what you mean by tried and tested, but from where I'm sitting, it has been tried and tested. 100,000 patients or so says that. There have been forced with vaccines in the past. Because you're not specific, I'm not quite sure what this is referring to. So maybe if you can be a bit more specific, we can deal with that. There hasn't been a large group of test patients, same as the first part of it, 100,000, that's large enough. And we're going to have more vaccines coming up. Each one of them will have tens of thousands of people who will this input. And then not enough time to see results. Well, that's not true, of course, because without results, you will not have approval. Okay. So to your question about long-term effects.
The long-term
side
effects,
Side effects, right?
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know that, did you mention anything about long COVID, or was that just me making that up?
No, you're making that up, because I have long COVID here, but I don't want us to mix it together because I think they're two different things, I mean, they're probably related, but I want us to address that separately, So yeah, so this is more of the long-term effects, side effects, if there are any at all.
Yes. So the answer to your question is, again, with the scientific method, like I said last time we spoke, this is one of the things that makes science robust in its recommendations. You could also say it's a limitation depending on what you want to do, but we will not offer any additional information beyond what we have the answers to. Okay. One of the criticisms of the relatively quick development and approval of these vaccines is that typically where you would have a time period of 10 to 15 years, 6 to 15 years, developing a vaccine, here you've got some like 12 to 18 months. Okay. And what that means is that in order to talk about long-term effects, anything we say will be extrapolation based on the data we have. The fact is that the follow-up data we have for most of these vaccines will not be more than about 3 to 6 months. Okay. And if I use the term follow-up because in ascertaining that a treatment is safe, right, and efficacious to be used in the general population, you typically do the initial kind of trials to test the efficacy and then do a follow-up over a period of time.
Yeah.
So in the past, before a vaccine would be rolled out, again, because there was generally not a huge amount of urgency in doing that. So there, if you like, there's a luxury of being able to do this. There was quite a bit of follow-up. So you would see some vaccines coming to the market with 5 years follow-up, right? With 2 years follow-up, with 3 years follow-up. Because if there isn't a huge amount of urgency, you might as well take your time.
Take your time, yeah, that's right.
Here, because there was urgency, unfortunately, that means that the kind of 2 to 5 year follow-up data, you don't have it right now. You will get that in 2 to 5 years, okay?
Yep.
And so the answer to your question is, in terms of long-term effects, what I can say is that the information that is available so far for the last 3 months, whatever, and all the follow-up that has happened, remember, when you talk about experience, you have longitudinal experience and you have cross-sectional experience, okay? Longitudinal experience is the one you follow one person up, you take one person and you follow them up for 5 years, 10 years, and then the cross-sectional is where you have, okay, if you have one person and you follow a person up for 5 years, what if you have 5 people and you follow them up for 1 year each, okay? Net effect is not quite the same, but it starts to give you an idea. And that's why I was talking of those numbers, okay? There's nothing we see right now that suggests that you're going to have a different side effect profile from any other vaccine. Because in principle, at least the AstraZeneca vaccine is very similar to all the other vaccines that many people have had. They use the same sort of vector. Just what's inside it that's different. It's the Moderna and the Pfizer one that use a different modality. Okay, they are mRNA vaccines. That's different. But again, there's nothing actually that suggests that there will be anything different as far as long-term side effects are concerned.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much for that. I guess everyone would like to know that. And if we are saying there are no long-term side effects that we know of at the moment, because to be honest, I guess because as some of our viewers tonight have said that, the speed at which this was developed and rolled out, not sure whether we had enough time to test and do all of those things. You know, with these things can change overnight. And I've heard people say, well, thank God I'm not 50 or I'm not 60 or I don't have any underlying health issues. So before it even gets to my turn to be able to take it, at least maybe a year would have passed or 8 months or something like that. They would have seen the side effects from those ones who have taken it earlier. But yes, as you've said, there are no long-term side effects that we know of at the moment. So
sorry, just to qualify that, when you say no long-term, we're saying beyond the common ones we've already talked about. Beyond, exactly. Anything extraordinary, right? Beyond what you would expect.
Yeah. So Elite, thank you for that. Elite Vendors Network says that actually, before I read that, I believe someone asked earlier that would this be made mandatory to take, or would we have a choice to take or not to take? And I believe you answered that question on the part 1 of the conversation, because maybe I can even answer that myself. Like, I mean, no one is saying that it's going to be mandatory for now, but things can change. That's the only thing I can say about. I can say to that. I don't know if
I can just talk to that. This is. So the question you're asking is it seems simple where you put the words in, but of course the response to it is not a simple one at all, because what you're asking about policy, you're asking about organizational decisions, companies and so forth. There are a lot of people involved in this. And so if you go to the very highest level of government policy, it's not government policy anywhere that the vaccination is going to be mandatory, not that I know of. And to be honest, that's not even a very smart thing to do, because once you make it mandatory, then you're creating unnecessary issues. So, but the question you're asking about the future, without asking us to stare into a crystal ball, we can't really tell you the answer to that. But it just doesn't make much sense for a government to make it mandatory because of the other things in my course. However, you may also have people who are, for example, if you want to go to certain countries right now, including the UK right now, they'll say if you don't have a negative test, you can't come in. Right? So even though being tested is not mandatory, right? But if you want to get into the country, you need to take it. So it's things like that. So I don't think that's something to worry about. The fact is, to think about it this way. You've got a situation. Okay? You've got a disease that's ravaging the population. You're the leader of the country. What do? You're saying that the vaccines took a long time to develop. Okay, so maybe we should have waited 6 to 15 years, by which time it's pointless, right? Because everybody has either got COVID or died.
That's right.
So pointless. So again, some of the questions are self-defeating, because when you look at it, you think, okay, what's the alternative? So that's one. Number two, if the idea is to protect those who are vulnerable,
yeah,
then once you've done that, I mean, I don't want to sound callous, but if you've protected those who are vulnerable, the ones that are not vulnerable are not much of a concern, right? Because,
that's
okay,
right.
yeah. So that's always going to be the focus. So, for example, you might be a young, healthy person. You may even have had COVID without knowing it, right? But you may be a young person, healthy person who's not deemed to be at risk. As soon as those who need to be protected are protected. Honestly, if you decide you don't want to take the vaccine, as long as those who you could potentially, give the infection are protected, and you decide not to take the vaccine, well, if you catch the disease and it only affects you,
then it's
right?
fine, at least. Yeah.
I mean, it's not
Just,
fine that somebody has caught it, but you made the decision,
at least, so the main thing is that you're not spreading it, and as you said, the most vulnerable people are protected already anyway. So right now, the rate at which this virus is spreading, it's so alarming, and the reason for that, it's also the fact that there are some people who are not showing any symptoms at all. They don't even know, like, that they've got it until they go for a test and all. So yeah, Elite's Net, I want to go through the comments very quickly again. So Elite Vendors Network says that there are other diseases and viruses that have been around for decades that there is no vaccine for. Why is it that this one has been made so quickly? And I think I can straight up answer that because we've said this earlier before. Think about it. We are in a pandemic. This is a virus that has brought the whole world to a halt at the same time. Remember the very first lockdown, where when we went on national lockdown, there was nowhere you can go. Right now, even in the UK, from Monday, they've closed all the travel corridors, so no one can even get out of the country. So why, if you ask me, I would say that why wouldn't there be a solution provided very quickly? Do you understand? This is the old world we're saying being at a standstill. So yeah, I guess that probably just explains it. Yemisi says every vaccine starts off new. Vaccines don't just come into existence in a vacuum. That's absolutely right. There's a question from Tolex Famous. She said that, do you know if the clinical trials were tested on people of color? Actually, I was going to say, oh yeah, you addressed that, but then that people of color is
no, I didn't address it. That question didn't come up last time, but that's a good question, right?
Yes,
because sorry, were you going to say something?
No. I was going to say that because earlier, I believe it was Elite's Vendors Network that says something about people not being tested, and you addressed it. But now that's in general, yes, another swing to it, that people of color, were any people of color tested? So please, can you answer to that, please?
So the answer is yes. Okay, the answer is yes. So of the populations, the prior populations, so the Pfizer one, which was testing about 40,000 people, the Moderna one, which was testing about 30,000 people, and the AstraZeneca one, which was tested on 11,000 people just in phase 3. For the Pfizer one, it was about 9.1%. Okay, African American, that's what they were called. For the Moderna one, it was about 8.9% thereabouts. For the AstraZeneca one, it was about 4%. Okay, so the answer to your question is yes, they were tested on people of color, right? The question you may ask is, was that enough? Was that a large enough number? Well, that's a separate question completely. But yes, they were testing people of color, and not just people of color, by the way. When I say people of color, actually, maybe I haven't answered the question properly, because I'm just addressing people who are black, right? I like to say the people who are chocolate, right? Nice. Golden tone kings and queens. But I'm talking about, but in addition to that, people who are Hispanic as well, right? Other ethnicities. So the numbers I was talking of were just people who are kind of described as black. Okay. In general, I think people who are not described as white, in general, you would have around 20% of the trial population, somewhere between 10 and 20% of the trial populations. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Do you know what? I love this next question, and it actually made me chuckle a little bit when I read it initially. It's from Elite Vendors Network. I know that they haven't come, they're not playing tonight, and this is really good, because I'm sure this is helping all of us to understand some of these things. They've said here that the government have stated on their website that if you have extreme side effects, you can get compensation for up to £120,000. Why would they write that if the vaccine was totally safe? I would ask the same question as well.
Okay. So my first comment is, I'm going to have to take your word for it that it says that on the government website, because I haven't seen that myself. But be that as it may, I mean, it's neither here nor there in terms of the point you're making, because your question is around whether the vaccine is totally safe. So whether it's that fact, or at least that statement, that assertion, or another one, your question would still apply. And so, well, this goes back to the very first question we talked about here. When you say totally safe, again, what do you mean by totally safe? Because we already said that there will be side effects. In fact, we also talked about there being a proportion that would have additional and extreme side effects, like you've described. That's a known thing. It's not just, again, I have to say this again, it's not just about this vaccine. Every vaccine you've ever taken, every treatment you've ever taken that is proposing to, again, that is a treatment or a medicinal product, not a supplement. Every one of those would have, just go now, just pick anything, you know, pick your pound or whatever. There's a leaflet in there that will show you what the side effects are. So that's nothing unique to this vaccine. That's why in approving the treatment, it's not enough to say that it gives immunity. That's the primary question. But there's also the question about causing no harm. You can't say that because, you know, something will cure a disease and then you use a treatment that, you know, like somebody said, go and drink bleach in order to kill COVID, right? Somebody did say that, somebody famous, right? I mean, you could do that, it will kill the COVID, it's just going to kill lots of other things as well. And that's the reason why bleach would never be approved as a treatment for COVID. So the answer that is being sought as far as approvals are concerned is always whether the benefits outweigh the risks, and whether the risks are actually risks that should even be being taken in the first place. So when you use a minority, or when you use an outlier to try and invalidate an entire case, that becomes a problem, right? It's a bit like you saying, or like somebody saying, because I've met somebody who is of a particular ethnicity who's done something, therefore it means everybody in that ethnicity does the same thing. Even though you point out to the person and say, but this is just one person in 1,000. This is just one person in 500,000. Are you really going to discount the rest of the people because of it? So that's kind of what this question is doing. The answer is there's nothing that is a medicinal product that you can, in fact, you can't use the term totally safe. If you use that, you'll be fined and asked to strike that from your records because you can't say that. You can't say that, right? There will be side effects. But what we're talking of the safety profile, okay? We're talking of the safety profile. We're talking of the fact that there will be some kind of minor side effects. There will be some serious adverse events that are involved. These are also tracked and monitored. Those will happen. Those will be in a minority, and that's why you get the information. I have contraindications, and you say, if you have this history or that history, please don't take it. If you're not sure about X, Y, or Z, please don't take it. If you have, you know, if you have, say, irritable bowel syndrome or something like that, please don't take your ibuprofen or something like that because it causes big problems for you. You see what I mean? So I think that, so please bear that in mind. I think asking the question about totality of safety is perhaps a straw man because nobody's making that claim, just like nobody's making the claim about totality of efficacy. Right?
Okay, I mean, that absolutely makes sense because, it's true. There's nothing that it give you the 100% guarantee, or if there were, we wouldn't have insurances and all of those things that we have in place to make sure that we are safe. There's a question here from A-Class Travel. She said that in your expert opinion are all the approved vaccines effective as each other? Do they all work in the same way? Do you need to take pre-existing medical conditions into consideration before taking? So I believe that question is like, okay, so should I, if I have any pre-existing medical condition, should I just go and take the Pfizer one as opposed to taking the Moderna one? Or so can you please talk to that, please? Thank you.
Very good question. So are all the approved vaccines as effective as each other? No, they are not. Right? So the reported effectiveness of the Pfizer one is about 95%, Moderna one about the same 94, 93%. So they are all above 90%. And the reported one for the Oxford AstraZeneca one is about 70%, okay, and up to 90% in a selected group of people. So the answer is they are not all as effective as each other. Do they all work in the same way? No, they don't. Okay, the Pfizer and Moderna ones use a different modality, mRNA. You know, I described how this worked in the last one. So if you have some time, but slightly different way. Okay, they achieve the same goal, but different way, different vehicle, different. They target the same thing, but different way. The AstraZeneca one is just a different vector, completely different modality, different way of delivering it. And in fact, so you see that the Pfizer one needs to be stored at minus 80 degrees, something like that. The Moderna one needs to be stored at minus 20 degrees. The AstraZeneca one needs to be stored at 2 to 8 degrees. And in fact, another one that is coming up by Janssen also needs to be stored at 2 to 8 degrees. Okay, and that one potentially can also be just one dose. So there's a range of options, and that's why even in the next year or so, you would still see vaccines for COVID-19 being developed and being approved.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much.
Sorry, there's a last question I didn't deal with. Sorry. Do you need to take pre-existing medical conditions into consideration? This is where you get medical guidance, okay? This is exactly why you need to be talking with your GP. In fact, many of these vaccinations are done in conjunction with the GPs and so forth. Because yes, you will need to take pre-existing medical conditions into consideration, depending on what they are. And this brings us back to what we're talking about in terms of safety. Sometimes the safety issues are related to those conditions. And so it says clearly, if you have these conditions, please don't take it, or please speak to your advisor, your GP. So the answer is a big yes.
Oh, wow. Thank you for that. Thank you, Prof. I don't know if anyone has noticed, right? It is, Prof, I don't know if you've noticed either. It is 8:31 and I can't see any countdown on my phone. So which means Instagram is letting us go over an hour. Yeah. So anyway, let's quickly go over every other thing because I don't know how long they let you stay on for now. Because I mean, this is actually a nice new year present, you know, if there's anything like that. Okay, so Philip says that it doesn't make sense why the development. It does make sense why the development of the vaccines was faster because the scientists from different part of the world were involved due to the urgency, and the government of every country were as well. Yes, that's absolutely right. For like I said, I think different countries work together this time to create the vaccine, sharing knowledge, which normally wouldn't happen. Exactly. And this is where I feel like we all just need to apply our own understanding to these things as well. Do you know, God forbid your house is on fire. You're not.
Actually, as you mentioned that, I like what the comments that we made here, because this is actually akin to a wartime effort. Do you know that the times of greatest innovation are usually during war? So you would have some, war machines, craft, aircraft, and so forth, that would normally take a long time. And then in wartime, you see these things happening in months. It's because of some of the things you're saying. When there is an emergency, where there is a big need, you see things happening. People will suddenly pull together and just start making things happen because they need to.
They need to. Yeah, it's like the house is on fire. You just get on with it. Okay, so Elite Vendors Network says, lastly, we will say there is proof to show that Pfizer and some of the other companies have administered harmful medicines and treatments in the past. So I guess this is why some people are just a little bit skeptical about.
Well, I think this person is mentioning it because, I challenged. They said we've been known some vaccines have been faulty in the past. The issue is that, of course, you've suddenly you're not talking about vaccines now, you're talking about harmful medicines and treatments, and I guess vaccines will fall into that particular category, but you were talking about vaccines. So maybe for a moment you still park that assertion you made about vaccines because we don't have anything to support that. But your statement here is right. This is true. This is absolutely correct that we have had some really unfortunate situations in the past, and some of them are even still rumbling on. Some even now with this Sackler issue, Purdue Pharma in the US regarding the OxyContin and the pain medication. The exact term eludes me right now. But so I would say to you as well, that is true. And there is proof that, countries, particularly, some countries in Europe have done some really terrible things in the past. Some like the UK, for example, they've done some really terrible things in the past. There's proof that Christians have done some really terrible things in the there's proof that everybody, in fact, there's proof that I have done some bad things.
Exactly. I was just
I have a few people, okay, but so I think you understand the point I'm trying to make. You're right, but does that mean then that what they're doing right now or what is being done right now is also the same? So think about that in the context of some of the points I've made now, okay? So yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. By the way, guys, we've got Pastor Tammy with us. Remember, I said earlier that we're going to be discussing this same topic again with Pastor Tammy as a pastor, a spiritual man who can come and shed some light on all the 666 that we're all linking this to. I mean, I can't wait for that conversation to happen. I will share the details as soon as I have them. So, guys, watch out for that. A-Class Travel says that which one of these vaccines would you recommend, Prof?
Oh, that's a rather unfair question.
Well,
I can't
I mean,
recommend
you're the expert
right?
in this, so which one would you
Yeah,
recommend?
well, I think it would also be a little bit irresponsible of me to recommend any of them, because this is not like you going to Amazon and buying a dress or Amazon dress, maybe not a dress, but buying
Well, yeah, you
buying
can buy a dress
some
from Amazon, right?
really okay.
Yeah.
So this is not the same thing. So I would not want to undermine the work that is being done by our really dedicated professionals. The thing is that when these vaccines go through the process of approval, what is being said to you is that when you take these vaccines, you should be fine. Okay. Now there are numbers, like I said, 90 plus efficacy versus 70 plus efficacy. In fact, the Sinopharm one, the Chinese one, has now been reported as being about 50% efficacious.
Yeah.
Ultimately, you do want to take a vaccine that is efficacious, but that's why the regulatory bodies are there. They have dedicated professionals and people who spend a lot of time to actually check that these things do what they are supposed to do. Okay, they all have their advantages and disadvantages. Ultimately, if you have a vaccine that is available to be taken, then as long and in this country, okay,
Yeah.
in this country, okay.
Yeah.
There are some other places I may not be as bold to say some things I'm saying. I've been involved in the process in this country and in the US. I know how these work. In some other places, maybe not so much. I don't know. I'm not saying that the vaccines are not good or that they will do anything negative, but I'm just speaking of what I know. So I cannot recommend anyone. All I would say is that it has been approved and it's available. And I've looked at the approval documentation of all of them, and I don't see anything in there that would say to me, you shouldn't be taking them.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. That's fine. That's very fair answer. Thank you very much for that, Prof. Yes, CMC. Yes, yay to the extended time. As in Instagram, thank you so much, because all the work of trying to get people to stay on and then come back again to join, this is absolutely great. I don't know how long it's going to last for, but I'm a risk manager, so we'll manage this risk and let's see how long it allows us to stay. So now back to the question I had earlier about the long COVID. So we see, I mean, I have seen it personally, even on TV, about long COVID. They say, I mean, it's like they even call the people long COVID. Like they put their name and then they put long COVID. What is that?
It's long COVID itself is a rather funny, facetious. I think that sometimes people that come up with these names, it's a catchy name as well, so you get it, so it works. But it's a term that is used to refer to long-term side effects, now not of the vaccine, but of the infection itself, of the disease itself. Okay? To always remember, again, maybe this is now being gratuitous, but I'll go back to my first analogy of this being facing up or being attacked by a bully and being beaten up quite badly.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes when that beating happens, depending on the severity of it, sometimes you might get away with tap you on the head a little bit and you run away. When you're young and fit, you can run faster than the victim, than the bully. But if you're not, and for whatever reason you're not able to get away, and then the person is stumped and there's a lot of damage, then the person goes to the hospital and then they start cataloging the damage that's been caused. Ribs broken, lungs perforated, things like that. Long COVID, in essence, is what happens over time. You now have all of that damage, showing up over time, and you have the symptoms of that showing up over a period of time. So you have some people who have COVID, and over, say, 2 weeks, 1 month, they're fine, as if nothing happened. Other people, you come back 5 months later, and they still have soreness, muscular soreness, aching, and things like that, joints and things like that, lightheadedness, because of the severity of the beating they got.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, thank you very much for that, because I've been thinking, actually, I thought that when I saw the long COVID thing, the first thing I said was, okay, maybe initially I was thinking, yes, if you get it and you recover from it, then that's fine. But I'm sorry, I don't want to get something that I'll have to be dealing with like months after and all of that. Yes, MC, you're absolutely right. Bank cards, yes, with chips in them were once labeled as the onset of 666. It is true. And Prof, this is why I said this when we were talking about this before, in terms of how we all see what is currently happening here. And I said that it is actually hitting home right now. Like, we all know people, or we're all beginning to know people who are very close to us that are losing loved ones to this virus. And if what they are saying to us is, you need to take this vaccine, at least we're not saying this is going to protect you 100%, but at least if you get it, it's just like when you have a flu. I have had a very bad flu before. I think this was maybe like 12, 13 years ago. And I honestly do not wish it on my worst enemy. Do you know? And people say that when you have COVID, it's similar to that. Do you know? So
not in all cases, but yes.
Well, not in all cases. And I was still speaking to a friend today that I found out this, one of us, I'm sure she's on this call tonight, that she was telling me about her experience. She didn't even know she had it, but she was able to beat it without having to go to the hospital. But when she explained it, talking about how the way their heart beats and all of that things, you just feel like, all right, I don't want to live my life in fear. And a lot of these things stem from fear. We've read these conspiracy theories and all of this. And this is why I'm so looking forward to that conversation with Pastor Timmy, because let's not deceive ourselves, right? How can someone predict something like 15 years ago and actually even say in 2020 there will be a global pandemic? And then it happened. And you can see why people are a little bit like, but yeah, maybe the person that predicted it worked with all the powerful people in the world to actually inject the virus. We can make up stories with all these things, right? But anyway, it is one of those things that we just make sure that we deal with. So there's a question, we had this question last time that we were discussing this. And I believe that, you did a very good job at explaining it then. And I'm sure there are people on this conversation tonight who probably still have the same question. And this is on the genetic modification of this. So can you please just talk to that? What does that really mean? And has there been any genetic modification to this vaccine that we are being offered? So
the answer to the question is not a simple answer, because the question itself is not a simple question. So you can talk of genetic modification from two directions, okay? Oh, by the way, genetic modification, in case it's not obvious from the name, is simply saying that the genetic code of a particular organism has been changed from what it was previously. But usually when you use the term genetic modification, you're talking of the change happening by an external agent, right? Because our genetic composition changes all the time, right? Genetic compositions change over time, right? Over time, I should say. So you could either look at it as genetic modification of the individual that has received the vaccine, or the genetic modification of the vaccine itself.
Yeah.
And I guess I'll deal with both ones, because sometimes people get those confused and muddled up and not realizing they're talking of two different things.
Yeah.
And I think that this term genetic modification, like many other terms, has kind of been used as a dog whistle. And, people just throw it in there and say, oh, yes, it's terrible genetic modification. What does it mean? Well, I don't know, but it's a bad thing. So, of course, I think you would appreciate that there are very few things that are in themselves bad things. It's how they're used. That's what it is. So when we talk about genetic modification, so let's talk about the vaccine itself. Well, remember how we said how a vaccine works is that it mimics, in essence, it mimics the bully, right? It's Mr. Miyagi, it's mimicking the bully, but in a controlled environment, so you don't get hurt. If you don't modify the vaccine, what would happen? You're, in essence, inviting the bully to your house and say, oh, here you go, train this guy. The bully's just going to kill the person. So you have to take precautions to make sure. I see there's a comment there. I see that. Is that why you're laughing?
I don't even know. No one is allowed to cough near me. If you're coughing, go and self-isolate somewhere, please.
Sorry. So getting back to what I was saying. So you do have to modify the genetic code of the virus in order to make sure that it does not multiply and it does not damage the person, right? So you do need to make sure that you don't end up inviting the enemy into your own home under the guise of come and train me because it was going to, yeah. So that by itself is what makes it a vaccine, right? Now, the very first vaccine, I don't know whether people know this, but in history of vaccination, Edward Jenner is usually credited with inventing a vaccine. I mean, I say usually credited because some of those things are controversial as to maybe there was someone else before. But what did he do? He, in essence, went and found the cousin of the bully, right? A younger cousin who's not quite as big. So you know that even if this cousin beats the person, they won't cause as much damage.
Yeah.
And then he brought the younger cousin into the house and said, okay, I want you to train this person. What was the younger cousin now? What was the bully? The bully then was smallpox. The younger cousin was cowpox. So he actually went to cows, you know, punctured the blisters, and then infected people with cowpox. And what he was saying is, instead of waiting for the bigger bully who can actually kill this person to infect, let's use the smaller one. Ultimately, you still learn to fight. And they found out that the people who were infected with cowpox ended up being immune to smallpox. And that's how vaccination started. And then over time, you now ask, but then they still got cowpox.
Exactly.
So you now say to yourself, surely I can do this better. Instead of doing the whole cowpox, is there a way I can do it so that the person doesn't actually catch cowpox? They just and then over time you modify it and say, actually, instead of taking the whole bully, why don't I just take his arms and his legs? Why don't I build a robot? Why don't I do something that, you know, that kind of thing? So that's in essence what happened. So you've got to the point where you're now able to actually find the things that you need in order to be able to protect against the virus. Isolate those ones, just those ones, modify the vaccine, the kind of DNA, or not the DNA, but the genetic code of the virus to make sure that doesn't cause any harm, and that's what you use. Whether you use it in the form of the mRNA one, in terms of the Moderna or the Pfizer one, or use it in terms of the Oxford AstraZeneca one, the principle is the same.
Yeah.
You want to make sure it doesn't cause any damage. Okay? So that's the one, okay? And then when it comes to people, so sorry, to summarize that, in order for you to actually have what we call a vaccine now, you do need to do some modification. That's kind of what makes the difference between you saying you had COVID and not having COVID. Because if you just take COVID, well, if you just take the virus, you don't need the vaccine to catch COVID. Just go and stand in front of someone that has it and let them cough on you. And then you might as well do that, right? Because you get the vaccine without modification. It's just that, hey, you know, that's how it might go. Or you take that, modify it in some way, and then the person gets it. Now, the other part of it, which is the modification of the person's genetic code. Well, again, this is a straw man that people throw out there because maybe they don't understand how vaccines work, understand how genetic modification works. It's not that easy to modify genetic code, okay? Number one, the Moderna one and the Pfizer one, which are the ones that often get this kind of issue associated with them. They are RNA, messenger RNA. Okay? In order to modify the genes, you have to get into the nucleus. There needs to be converted to DNA. There needs to be integrated into the host genome. It's a complex process, but the bottom line is, this is RNA. This is messenger RNA. RNA is different from DNA. Okay.
Yeah.
We're not going to the nucleus. It's not going to go in there to attach to DNA. It's not going to happen. Okay. So I think there's a misunderstanding. The fact that somebody says this has been modified in this way, the person thinks that they are saying is going to modify people's DNA. That's not what anybody is claiming. Okay. Should I answer the question I see on the screen? Or?
I can see, yes. I was going to say, I didn't just want to jump in there. Yes, so let's answer A-class travel question. So she said that, is it true that the Oxford vaccine has used the strain from a chimpanzee? Is this safe? I mean, when the question came in, I just chuckled a bit, like, okay, that's quite interesting, you know, and this is the first time I would hear of this. So, I mean, Prof, before you answer that, I want to say something. Question here is that, is it true that this strain is from a chimpanzee? How do people hear about these things? Do you understand? And then, so this is my question on this. So this is a very valid question because they must have heard it somewhere, and for them to want to know whether it is true or not and if it is safe. right? And so now, in answering that question, can you also answer why? How do people hear or know about these things?
Well, so actually, in this particular case, because there is, even if not the way the question is phrased, but actually it's on there's a factual basis for this question. People will hear about these things either because it's reported in the media, or because maybe they've taken the time to kind of look into the science that is involved in these things. But more often than not, people hear these, unfortunately, when somebody who maybe has not really understood the full picture just reads something. It's like what we say about the Bible, right? Somebody reads something, takes it out of context, runs with it, and then it causes a lot of damage down the line. So in addressing this question, when the way the question is phrased, the general direction of it is right. However, there are some details that I just need to talk to that. So when you say it has used the strain from a chimpanzee, what we're talking of here, in case you didn't know that, is not the coronavirus strain. Okay. So remember when I talked earlier about vaccines, how it is that you need it's a message, there's an envelope. Right, and you need to put that envelope in order to post it to the house, right? Because you won't get there otherwise. Now, what is that envelope? The vector that carries the vaccine. Now, for the coronavirus, obviously, it has its own vector. It has its own, if you like, its own part of its own capsid. But when you do vaccines, you have to decide which one you're going to use. So the Moderna and the Pfizer ones use something different. They actually just have some facts, if you like, in there that allow it to get to the whole cell. So they don't have what you call a standard envelope. The Oxford one has a more standard envelope, right? The kind of envelope that's used for a lot of the vaccines that have been used in the past. And what happens is, so maybe I should explain it this way. You know how we talked about how immunity works, right? How immunity works is that once the body recognizes that virus, that agent, the body, in essence, passes a bulletin around with a picture of the face of that agent. Anyone you see, just shoot on sight. If you see it, don't even let it close, just shoot. And these guys, those agents that you have in your body, they don't have long conversations. There's no, oh, I need to explain, boom, gone, right? So the problem is this. Imagine that this bully, right, or this, let's not say bully because I don't want people shooting other people, but this agent now has an identical twin, right? And you're giving your agents, your security guys, you're giving them that picture, and you said, when you see this person, just shoot. No conversation, don't engage, just shoot. And then you want to send a message, and you choose that person's identical twin to go and send the message. What do you think will happen? They will never get past. They get shot because they look like the image. No conversation. So you can send that identical twin as many times as you like. They won't get through. So this is the problem. So you would think that it's as simple as if you want to say develop a vaccine, you would take a kind of virus or a kind of vector package that the body is familiar with and use that. Well, the problem is the identical twin problem. If you use something the body's been exposed to, your drug won't even get there. The body will shoot it down before it gets there in the first place. So what do? You'd say, right, I need to get somebody that can deliver this message, but I need that person to be capable in the same way of delivering the message. So the same kind of build, the same kind of carrying capacity. But I need the person to be different enough so they don't get shut down. And so you start to look at cousins, people that are related. In this case, you look at a chimpanzee.
The chimpanzee,
right? You see, I'm going to take a strain of the vector, not of coronavirus, of the vector, because the vectors themselves, if you remember what I said to you at the beginning, viruses are experts at evading the immune system. So if you want to get a message, you choose a virus, like they are ninjas. Right? So you choose a ninja that already knows it. So, and that's the thing. So you get another virus that you understand, well, this one is a tame virus, right? But they can't look like the one you're trying to kill. So you go and get one. So that's why the vector, the adenovirus vector that has been used for the Oxford vaccine, by the way, is a very common vector that's been used for vaccines the past 10 or 20 years. That's taken from chimpanzees because of the identical twin problem I just said to you. If you don't take it from chimpanzees, we would never get past the human defense system because our bodies will recognize the adenovirus is so common. It's for the common cold. Almost everybody would have had the common cold at some point or another. So that means we have antibodies against it. So you can't use that. So they now said, right, let's use something that is similar enough, yes, different enough, so that it can get past the immune system. So that, yeah, so that, so that the body will not shoot it on site and it can deliver the message. So that's why that's being used in that way. So it's just a vector. It's just it's just the messenger to deliver the message. It's nothing to do with the vaccine. It's just to make sure the message gets to where it can be used. And after that, it gets removed by the body.
Wow. Wow. Honestly, see, Morolayo, yes, that's right. Our cousins, you see, even Prof himself, he laughed. But yes, thank you so very much. Honestly, we have been on this conversation for an hour and a half. I can't believe it, guys. Thank you for staying with us. You know, this is for me. I always say that as a risk manager, actually, I'd say that if you're going to make a decision from an informed position. When you do that, regardless of what happens, at least you were informed before taking that decision. And as we've said, and because I am a person of faith, Prof himself is a person of faith as well. We're both Christians. We both have a show that we present on Sundays. It's called Sunrise. I'm sure some of you've joined us a couple of times. You can check my page and you'll see it there as well. I said that earlier that Pastor Temi will be joining us to have this conversation again. This topic, we want to discuss it, and that time will probably be on like YouTube, you know, so we can stay for as long as we need to, and then answer questions, ask any question, and then Pastor Temi will be giving us his own view from the 666 view, because it is very relevant, right? A lot of people are saying these conspiracy theories that we're hearing every night, left, right, and center, they are real. And people are like, you know what, I can't. Can I just say that one of the ladies that I spoke to who's taking this vaccine, this is a true life story, She would have joined us tonight, but because for me, this is, you can say it is personal, because this thing can happen to any of us, right? Because I haven't necessarily lost a loved one yet, doesn't mean that, oh, it can't happen. But I pray it doesn't happen, okay? But with people who have experienced it or they're experiencing it, we pray strength for them. Do you know, this lady took the vaccine, she took the first dose. She actually did, I mean, I haven't seen that. She went on Facebook and posted it. She posted the picture of her being given the vaccine. She posted like a name tag, so you can see that I didn't make this up, you know, I actually took it. And you know, someone came on the comment section and says that, oh my God, you went to take this vaccine? Okay. Oh. Do you know, I read that and I was like, can you imagine that? Do you know? And it's people like this that we want to educate, honestly. But no one is going to force you to take it. You know, if you don't want to take it, I mean, it is your decision. Why we're having all of this conversation is that we bring out the relevant information that you need to know about this, and then you can decide which way. I mean, Prof, you said it, they can't be made mandatory that by force we all should get it. And even if that happens, well, then we will get there. I can see people talking about rapture and everything there. Is, do you know, I'm even like,
that's for the next conversation, which I'm looking forward to as well.
Do you know?
Later
yes, and
in the week,
that's what we'll be looking at. Yes, the next conversation will be on this rapture, and this is why we're going to have a pastor with us. As you all know, I always represent the general people and everything. Prof is a minister, by the way. If you don't know, he's Minister Zubi. And we have a pastor that will join us. Honestly, guys, you don't want to miss that. But I have to say again, thank you, Prof. I cannot thank you enough. Thank you so very much, because you could have chosen to spend the last 1.5 hours with your family, you know, or doing other things, but you chose to come and give us this information. This is so relevant. And guys, please, if you have any questions, okay, Prof is not really on Instagram. He's a very serious, you know, scientists, they are very serious people. You'll find him on LinkedIn. So on LinkedIn, you'll find him. If you want to follow him, read some of his work that he's done. He's created so many different things. I mean, you can even Google his name, you know. So please, and if you have any further questions that you want him to answer, feel free to reach out to him or reach out to me, and I'll reach out to Prof. I have direct access to Prof. So thank you all so very much. I can see Chick Bello just joined. We're just rounding up, but thank you for joining. So guys, Honestly, I love you all so very much. Thank you for staying till the end of this. And guys, please, one more thing that I want to say before we go for tonight. In the next 2 weeks, I'll be coming with another guest, and this guest, we're going to be looking at mental health. This is January. I don't know if it's been a slow start to the new year for you guys, but it has been a very fast start for me. I mean, the last couple of weeks has been crazy. People who are very close to me, they know, they can tell you. But, and I was thinking, you know what, we should still think about our mental health. Guys, all I want to hear is that, Balanli, when the vaccine comes, I'm taking it. Do you know, because right now, I think the first part that we did, we were saying, well, it's a decision, take it if you want to take it, if not, don't take it. But my decision is, I am taking it when they offer it to me. You know, it is better to be safe than sorry. So thank you so much. Bola, you can travel to the US. There's nothing to worry about. I know you've traveled, you've taken yellow fever vaccine before, you know. So, and it's, again, so you say, Prof, that's the thing. You know, that yellow fever thing, after you've taken the vaccine, they will ask you to take the card, the yellow card, you know, that you take with you when you travel. And it's the same kind of same thing. Well, maybe not the same thing, but similar thing. But, and people have been taking this for years. So, so thank you all so much again. God bless you. Have a lovely weekend. Prof,
Thank you.
I'm going to see you tomorrow because, by the way, guys, please come and join our show tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. It is sunrise at HOTR London. So if you either check Instagram or YouTube, not Instagram, YouTube or Facebook, it is at HOTR London. So come and join us. We have lovely conversations. We have different things. We talk about different things. And if you want to see Prof in his ministerial duty, come there and see him. You will find him there. So yeah, please. Thank you so much. I can see Philip and Chick Bello going back and forth. Just keep enjoying. Thank you so much, Prof. God bless you so much. Thank you for coming. God bless you. I'll speak to you. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow morning. So guys, I'm so loving this Instagram, thank you too very much. You know, this is us staying for what? Over an hour and a half. Seriously. Wow, I am grateful. So guys, please, let's thank Instagram as well for giving us this opportunity. It is absolutely great. You know, for a very long time I've been thinking, oh, should I take this to Facebook where we can stay for longer? Because you know, some of these conversations, when you're having them, having that break always kind of, it breaks the flow and it doesn't really even help the guests. So but this is answered prayers, and answered prayers for me. So thank you guys so much, as we always do. This is why I know you love me so much, because even though I'm saying thank you, it's time for you to drop. You're still there, but you know, I'll keep saying thank you until you all drop off, because I don't like to just say okay bye, then I end the live. So yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Yes, thank you, babe. Thank you. Well, Biadu, was, I'm sure you joined me in praying to God that Instagram would extend the time. So yeah, Egmont, thank you so much. Thank you for joining. Thank you. Really grateful. Okay, please, it's time to go. Yes, favor prevail. Thank you, Instagram. Yes, thank you, Instagram. Yes, Chick Bello, thank you so much, Ma. Thank you. Okay, guys, I'm running out of thank you. So thank yous. I don't know if you want to say something else. But let's talk. Can you please go now? Yes, please. Please, yes. Guys, let your friends and family know, you know, they don't need to have watched this live. They can go on my page and watch the replay. And if you're not following me yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. And I don't know what you want me to do or how you want me to tell you to follow me. Follow the page, please, so that when I go live next with my next guest, you get notified. It is absolutely important. I know they say to us now, be mindful of the pages that you follow so you don't just get junk and everything. And you all do know that I do not bring junk on here. I bring people who are serious. As I've said, this platform is to shine the spotlight on people doing great stuff. So, and I have a lot of people to bring here. And very soon I'll be having a co-host as well. So you have to watch out for that. Hopefully Instagram will let us go live on laptop, you know, so we can have the landscape view. But anyway, yes, thank you so much, BC. Thank you all. Thank you very much. God bless you. All right, so I'm going to end it now. And I'm going to count down like I usually do, because I don't want to be like, oh yeah, bye. All right, Biodu and Laulu, yes, please don't be rude. All right, I am counting down. I don't know why you make me do this all the time. All right, counting down I'm going to start from 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bye. We are still having fun. Please, can you join another something, please? All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you. Have a good night, and have a great Sunday as well. And God bless you all. God bless you. Bye. Okay. Well, which one is don't go now? You should stop. See, Mrs. Bello, please, Dickiness. Don't see. Okay. Yes, is that 1 0? All right. Bye. I'm going off now. I'm going to go. Oh yeah. No, this is not fair. 2.5, really? Okay. All right. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you very much. I should start from 100. Okay, yes. If I start from 100 to 100, then you have like, how many other people come and join us again? Oh, please. Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. I need to drink water, because all this thank you I'm saying is you can tell, even I don't want to go. I love you all. I love you all so much. I love you. Thank you. Thank you. Good night, Ma. Thank you. Thank you all very much. And see you same time. No, not same time, actually. 7 o'clock. So next time will be 7 o'clock. Yes. See you next time at 7 p.m. Thank you all. Oh, role model, you're just joining. Thank you for joining. We're just going off now. We've been on for an hour, 36 minutes. So bye-bye, everyone. God bless you. Love you all. Bye.